Welcome to the Team DataFam Tableau User Group meeting number 10. This TUG is about, or more about the presenter than the audience. So we meet at a whole heap of different times because that's what the presenter would like to do. So Will and Kyle today, obviously in the US, I'm still in Australia, but we meet up to run through presentations that they would like to present. Anybody is welcome to present at the TUG. It doesn't have to be a TC25 presentation, but this is what we've got today. And if anyone wants to present at all, please email me at team.datafam@gmail.com and we can arrange something for you. Today we have a repeat of TC25, Will and Kyle presenting VizQL and Chill. So talking about Tableau Server, looking at the VizQL extension, but that's not the right word to use. It's more of an API. I don't know what I'm talking about. These guys will show you through and I'll send it over to you. I'll stop sharing so you can start sharing.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. And I will share the presentation here. To me, it looks good, but can someone confirm I'm sharing the right window? All right.
Good. That's good.
All right. So let's dive right in. So this is VizQL and Chill, a binge-worthy post Data 25 presentation. So if you didn't see Will and I at TC25, now's your opportunity. We've taken a little bit of the feedback that we got, but for the most part, you're getting exactly what you would have gotten at TC25. So I am Kyle Massey. You can see my handle there on X. We'll go into some more introductions here in a second. And on the other screen there is Will Perkins at Gringuino. And let's just dive right on in, shall we?
Kyle, hey, Kyle.
Oh.
Never mind. This works. This works. No, I was going to say this slide's a little boring. I think we need to ramp it up and build it into to impress the people here.
You're right. You're right. So let's see what's on the next slide.
Ooh.
Ooh. All right.
All right. So Kyle and I did this presentation at Tableau conference, and of course we both work at JP Morgan, so we got to make sure that we let y'all know that these are things that we created. These are not things that exist within the firm. So the views, opinions, and examples are strictly ours. So for those of y'all here that work at JP Morgan, this doesn't exist, and y'all know this doesn't exist inside the firm. But who knows? Who knows? Someday.
All right, so quick introductions again. Again, I am Kyle Massey. I am a 2025 Tableau visionary, as well as a 3-time Tableau Data Dev ambassador. I'm a senior vice president, as Will mentioned, at JPMC, and I run a team of software developers. In a nutshell, we develop automation solutions and other sort of enterprise things to support business intelligence tools. So primarily Tableau, obviously I have a sweet spot there, but we also support the other other tools at the firm. So things like ThoughtSpot, Cognos, Click, Alteryx, things like that. We do all automation. So Will?
Perfect. I'm Will Perkins. I've been at JP Morgan for 11 years now. I currently lead a sizable team, about 15 deep so far. We support the finance organizations, but just because I'm working at a bank doesn't mean I am in finance, but I just so happen to be in finance. I'm a data viz guy that works in the financial industry. Absolutely love what I do. It's been a lot of fun. And funny enough, Kyle and I met at JP Morgan. And our first interaction, I had not remembered the story of the first time we met. But we have an internal Tableau community, and in the budding time of when it was starting, Kyle presented a link and he said, "Oh my gosh, I found this link of a funnel chart, and this is the coolest chart ever. Hey guys, go check this out. And here's how you can do that." And I immediately sent a message and I said, "Do not share that. That's not good data viz best practices." And I crushed his little heart. God bless his soul. Sorry. But through conversations, through interactions, we realized, he realized where I was coming from. And I also understood where he was coming from as far as sharing knowledge, doing the things that we should be doing in the community. And my grumpy old self was trying to gatekeep on some of those things. So So we built up our friendship through our passion, our goals and everything. And through that, we have remained close. However, our careers have diverged. I have stayed on the business side, working with teams through their BI areas. And Kyle has really, really done a lot of good stuff on the tech side, the coding side, and really taken this to a new level. So when we had the opportunity to speak at Tableau Conference, when they opened up call for speakers, I specifically reached out to Kyle and I said, hey, Kyle, you're really good at coding. I'm really good at making slides. So let's work together. And I think you can create this, this idea that I have and make it come to life. And
all the credit.
And I'll make the decks. And we got selected. And here we are. So it's a great, great story. So
yeah, I love that story, Will. I love how our first meeting was really a headbutting. And you were right. You were absolutely right. I could have prefaced it more with like, not for business, but more for fun. Help me grow a little bit about, knowing what's for work, what's not. But as you said, over the years, we've stayed in touch, both of me being part of the Tableau COE and the automation team. And we've really gotten to see each other grow and learn new things together. So, wouldn't change a thing about it. So, all right.
So as Kyle mentioned earlier, some of the things we learned from Tableau Conference, we got some of the feedback, we listened to people. And so we really kind of want to show you all the good, the bad, and the ugly of kind of some of what we saw. All feedback is great feedback. The good feedback is like people were saying it's favorite session. So whoever said that this was their favorite and 2 thumbs up and a big toe, loved it. It's fun, exciting, real solutions, real problems. That made us feel really good. The bad was like they would have liked to see more details, more technical stuff. They loved the presenters, but the presentation wasn't so great. Interesting. Then the ugly stuff, like, we take all feedback to heart. Some people didn't find value, and these are real quotes. No technical details. It was somewhat informative. So we've revamped this. This is kind of like maybe season 2 of VizQL and Chill. But we want to let you know, if you saw it during Tableau Conference, hopefully this is a little bit of an enhancement and you like round 2. So sticking with our theme, our movie theme. Well, first of all, Houston, we have a problem. So we're going to talk about problem statements, use cases, things you hear about in the business world, and really like understand what is it that we're going to go through. We need to talk about your flair. So how do we get some pizzazz? How do we go through and understand the good uses of metadata and how we can take that to the next level? Elementary, my dear Watson. How do we find for clues like a good detective? No place like home. Thinking about a user experience when it comes to a home page, a portal interface. And then finally, we're going to show you it's alive. It's alive. We're going to give you a demo, real code, real experience, no Figma, no faking.
Awesome. All right. Houston, we have a problem.
Got 99 problems, but a Viz ain't one.
All right.
So a lot of times we hear these types of problems. People will come to us. Why can't I find what I need to find? What do I have access? How do I sort through it? Like we know these questions, but the more important thing here that we need to do, Kyle, is these are just like generic problems. I'd rather put a face to these problems, right? I'd rather put a name and a face to say like, okay, make these problems real. Let's do that. So we got Ray, the lead dashboard developer over at Field of Dreams Ventures. He has problems. He was told if he build it, they would come. And he built it, and no one came.
Okay.
Damn, poor Ray.
So sad. So sad.
Yeah. Then Cole Sear, he is one of our favorite executives over at 6 Sense Consultants. He's got a problem. He sees dead dashboards. He just doesn't know what's relevant, right? We all have those problems. But Cole, there he is. Poor guy sitting in his executive suite.
Poor Cole.
Buddy the elf, man, Buddy, personality, top notch. So he's got problems. Santa, I know him, but I just don't have his access, right? So, how do I know what access I need and how do we get all through that? He's motivated, but he just has no place to go.
Yeah. And before we move on, I just got to say, bye, buddy. Hope you find your access.
Finally, Jack Twist, our field sales manager out at Cowboy Outfitters. I wish I knew how to quit Excel. I just need to download the data. So how, as we can see, all of these real people have real problems when it comes to what we do and how we do it. So when we think about the one question that people come into, it's like, why is it so hard to find it? How do we translate that into, well, we need to navigate different environments, instances. How do I see access? Well, think about access at scale. When you think about large environments, I can tell you JP Morgan has a very large Tableau environment, very complex access structure. There's a lot of things of just how can you think of, small, medium, large scale installations, things that people are going to run into. And then I was thinking, hell, I'm an end user. I got problems. So Kyle, I got problems.
You definitely have a few but this isn't therapy, so we'll go into that later.
So basically take all these problems, convert into something else. So now I need to convert my problems.
Sorry, wrong screen.
So my problem is, can we rebuild the Tableau server or cloud user experience utilizing Tableau's built-in features? So everyone is very well aware of when you go to explore, you see the projects, you have different sites, you click through projects, you find stuff, and that's how can I reimagine, rebuild that stuff? So using built-in features like, there we go, like metadata, search, and VizQL data service. Hey, Kyle, what's VizQL data service?
So the VizQL data service, if you know me at all, you know that I am a very huge fan of this. The VizQL data service just gives us a chance to essentially write almost like a SQL query, structured in JSON though, against a published data source. So no more of this weird embed a view in your application and in your web page and then hide it so that you can use the embedding API to query. No more of that janky stuff, right? It's 2025. We don't have to do this anymore. We'll go into a little more detail, and at the end, I've got some additional resources specifically about VDS and how to get started. But it is available in GA across all of cloud, and it is coming to server this year. So I just kind of explained some of this. So if you don't know, sorry, I don't have my slide master like I had at TC, so I'm forgetting which slide comes next. So apologies there. But I kind of explained what VDS is, but what is VizQL? If you've not heard of VizQL, right? So VizQL is kind of like the secret sauce that makes Tableau what it is. It's the hyper-optimized querying language that's going on anytime you're dragging and dropping pills around in Tableau desktop, or something's rendering on Tableau server or Tableau cloud. VizQL is what's going on behind the scenes there. And VDS, or the VizQL data service, is what lets us leverage that to tap into querying directly from our published data sources using API calls. So anyone who's familiar with using Postman or Python, things like that, to make HTTP requests, you can now get the data directly out of your published data source using that sort of methodology. And the great thing about it is that, as it says here, it's built on the data that you already know, right? So okay, in Tableau, we're connecting to this table, but the calculations work this way. And then for our application, we're connecting directly to the database and redoing calculations. No, we don't need to do any of that. The other great part of it is that it's the same governance and controls that you're already used to. So when I authenticate and send a request as myself to VDS, I will get the results that I should see. And that includes things like what I have access to, row level security, and et cetera, et cetera. Same with if Will or Chris were to make the same query, if they don't have access to the same things, they'll only get the results that are relevant to them. So it's a great way of kind of freeing your data that you already have in your, built into your semantic layers with published data sources, freeing it to be used wherever you want, however you want, but still maintaining all of the stuff that we expect data in Tableau to provide us. So that's an overview of VizQL and VDS and why you should use it and where we're going to go with it.
So show of emojis. How many of y'all are familiar with Tableau Pulse? Can't see a lot of emojis going through, but hopefully everyone is aware. All right, we got some emojis coming through. All right, cool. So Tableau Pulse is built off the VizQL data service, taking your published data sources and creating a completely new user experience, new look, new feel of charts, graphs, leveraging your published data source. When I first saw Tableau Pulse being demoed at TC23, I believe was the first year they demoed it, I kept looking and saying, that's not Tableau, that's Figma. There's no way I can create that chart easily without a lot of hacks. There's no way. I just kept saying, there's no way. And even in TC24, when they talked about, VizQL data service, I didn't put the two of them together. I didn't see what the art of the possible could be until Kyle and I talked about, or actually Kyle's first demo, his blog about VizQL as a data service. So very, very, like, all of the possibilities are limitless with VizQL VDS. So on to the next page. So when we're doing all this user research and talking, Dr. Ian Malcolm, phenomenal guy, phenomenal. He challenged us, said, we're so preoccupied with whether or not we could, did we stop to think if we should do this? So we did. We looked at it. We thought long and hard. We absolutely can and should go through this. So thanks for the feedback, Dr. Malcolm. There you go.
But
So things like problems, again, going back to the user interface, the user problems, is when you go in and you're looking inside of a project and you see all the thumbnails of a dashboard, you don't always know what your view is. You're seeing the preview that the developer published using their access. So I might not have that exact view. I might have some row level security or governance that doesn't let me necessarily see that thing. So very hard for us to understand what that default view should be. Again, thinking about my problems when I brought this up to Kyle, it was a lot of work. When we think about project navigation is really hard because I could have a ton of different projects. I could have a ton of different things. This example, the video didn't quite click. So it's supposed to, like, if you hit next, does it start going on that little video? I got a little GIF there.
I think the transition from slides to PowerPoint broke some of it.
So I'll go back up a couple. So anyways, going back to project navigation, when you have a complex user environment, those things are very hard for you to find what you're looking for. It's like searching through Windows Explorer trying to find a file that you're looking for. And Tableau's done a good job in giving us like the project tree, and we can go through and we can look at some of these different things, but it's not exactly the best way for us to find things. So again, thinking about my user experience, that's a problem for me. Then we go into access and empowerment. Not every dashboard, probably most dashboards that you don't have access to, you don't get something that looks like this. You just get a blank page. You don't know why you can't see what that dashboard is. So we've run into issues. Good developers can give you a heads up as to why you don't have access or whatever, but you run into how do you empower and enable users to know what they should or should not see. So again, bad user experience. And then coming into like new content. If you're like us in the corporate world, we're constantly churning out dashboards or solutions that we're delivering to our stakeholders, and they don't always know what's new or updated. And so you kind of have to look at this through the server side, and maybe they don't even go to the server to know what's new, what's recommended. There's really that kind of experience. They go through maybe a landing page, a portal, some other embedded experience where they have to find their their solutions that are relevant to them. And it's hard. So how do you think about that? As put yourself in the user's shoe, and man, it's not that easy. So we got problems.
Well, I don't think I ever noticed this caption down at the bottom during TC. Source, cluttered Tableau cloud site. I love it.
Drop little Easter eggs in there. So obviously we need to talk about your flair, and you don't have to have 37 pieces of flair to do it.
Well, you can. I mean, okay.
So when I sat down and I put myself in the stakeholders' shoes, I said, okay, I need to come up with the requirements, because if I'm going to have Kyle build all of this stuff, he's going to need to know what to build or why to build it. And so I figured I'd try to be as generic and open-ended as possible to make his life easier when developing. So I said, I want to design a strategy about capturing the metadata, what's on a workbook, what's on the server, how can we pull this stuff in? So I thought about, there's a lot of metadata that the workbook can give you, and stuff that we really underutilize as developers. I talked to a lot of developers, and not a lot of people use descriptions. Not a lot of people use tags. Not all of the calculations and fields inside the workbook make sense. Having copy, calculation 3, copy, not always a good user experience, but that calculation works. So how can we take an understanding of, like, what is the project structure? Where is this solution residing? What are the descriptions? How can we find some of these, sheet names in the workbook, et cetera? Just think about what is behind the scenes. How often is this thing being refreshed in an environment? You can look at revisions from Tableau Server metadata. You can look at, the scheduled refresh of an extract on the data source, right? You can get a lot of stuff that isn't inherently embedded with that object or objects tied to that workbook. And we also think about, third-party systems, right? You may have an integrated tool that helps you deploy content. Kyle has done an amazing job internally, so we have a really cool tool. And so I was thinking about that. All right, well, how can we track some of when were things going into production? Who pushed it? How are we managing this platform? Can that read some extra stuff, right? Just thinking about all these different code repositories or things along this, like, again, just saying, hey, there's metadata out there, and maybe even some sort of custom scripts that are, because, that exist because of business needs. So there's just a lot of stuff. And I just said, hey, Kyle, how can I capture this data? So I was like, all right, there you go. There's requirement number 1.
And here on the screen, just to give you a little tease, we'll talk a little bit more about it. We're talking about Flare, right? That doesn't quite look like the normal server or cloud experience, right? You're seeing a lot of things that wouldn't really be included otherwise, but that's teaser number 1. So we're going to keep going.
All right. So that's some pretty Flare. I like that. Then we think about elementary, my dear Watson. So how can we become detectives? Search is a big thing. I want to be able to find content that is relevant to me, find content relevant to keywords that I'm looking for. So that was my next requirement. Hey, how can I search beyond just using keywords as a parameter value, searching it up against every field in my data source, and it has to be in that particular order, right? Show of emojis. I'm sure everyone has done some sort of set up and calculated like that. So I wanted to think of, well, I know the server has an API. I can Google really well. So the server has a search API. So I want to be able to pull up results. If I can search on the server for content, I want to be able to use that same thing. Kind of going back to that metadata repository, how can I store some of that workbook metadata? Understanding that the workbook is really just an XML file. So how can I pull through some of that content? If we have migration details, again, using a third-party tool or something custom, where you can say, okay, here's some additional details. It was deployed by this person who resides in this org chart or this line of business function, whatever, right? You have a lot of information. And then with an asterisk, the vector search is something that exists on Salesforce Data Cloud that will allow you to search within your published data sources, search deeper, wider, farther, to let you know if I'm looking for South, it can also find your Superstore data source that has the word South in one of your fields, right? So being able to search better, I was like, man, I got to be able to find my stuff, Kyle. And I figured that was good enough requirement. So Kyle, take it away.
Help me find the thing. Got it. So again, another teaser for you here. So you see I'm performing a search here. This is going quickly on purpose. You might see, that was a short video, but so this is again a custom search interface, and we will talk a little bit more about what you're seeing versus what you would see in a normal quote unquote normal search experience, and how you can customize that for your needs and your users and your customers. All right, but again, teaser. Don't want to show too much. All right, Will, back to you.
All right, so and then I'm thinking, I really want a good homepage user experience. I want to have, that good experience. So there is no place like home. Home is where we start. And you know what? We're absolutely not in Kansas anymore, Kyle. We were actually in San Diego.
We were. Now we're in Texas and Ohio and Australia and all over the world. But
exactly. Yeah. Now we're global. So my requirements, I try to give really good, detailed, open-ended requirements. So that way, I say, hey, Kyle, just bring everything together and make it comfortable, make it easy for the end users to understand. I need it to be scalable and it's sustainable. So think about just like productionalizing these things. I don't want to have to think about it anymore. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to have to log in all the time. I want to be able to just go to the interface and it knows who I am. I want to have a personalized user experience. I'm tired of those default icons. When I go in, I look at my view of dashboards and it shows me the thumbnails. I don't want those views. I want my views. I want to get rid of that project structure. I want to make it feel comfortable. And you know what? I also want to give some feedback. I want to say, hey, I like this thing. I don't like this thing. I want to have some sort of capability to, without digging in too hard, because if I want to look at the description of a dashboard, I've got to go to the workbook. I've got to click on the ellipses. I got to view description. That interface is very hard for me to understand. What is this thing that I am trying to do? If I'm trying to see tags. So Kyle, I just need a better way to do this. So that was pretty much my requirements whenever I talked to Kyle. So Kyle, just make this happen, dude.
Just make it better, right? Yep, got it. Message received. All right, so another thing, Will's talking about user content and recommendations. So if you see I'm scrolling through things and I'm seeing things organized in a way that they're almost never organized on Tableau Server, right? Of course I've got favorites. I've got other things that I liked. I've got a featured author. I've got new content. Maybe these are categories that I want to call out. I want to guide people in a new direction. So we'll see a little bit more about what that means in just a couple moments here.
Not even a couple minutes.
Not even a couple moments. Like
that's right here, man.
Do we do it now? I mean, I think I've teased you guys a lot. We've talked a big game about what we wanted to try to put together, and we teased you with just little things here and there. So I think we'll just go ahead and get right into it. All right.
Give the people what they want.
Change the screen that I'm sharing here. Make sure. So can we see that?
Yep.
Actually, I'm going to do that differently because I can't see myself, which makes me nervous. So we'll share the entire Chrome window. I will get an infinity mirror for a second, but now can you guys see that?
Yep.
All right. So VizQL and chill. This is it, baby. So landing screen experiences might remind you of a streaming service that you've seen before, right? You come to a landing screen, and typically if you've got multiple users, you're going to pick who you are. Think of your streaming accounts at home, right? First, you pick who you want the app to know who you are so that they can give you content that matters to you. You could also think of this as lines of business. If you have access to multiple lines of business that are siloed for whatever reasons, this could be a profile for each line of business that you need to access. Whatever makes sense here, right? The main thing you're going to hear us talking a lot about is you do whatever you want, right? So let's see what happens when I start interacting here. So I'm going to go ahead and authenticate as myself. First thing it's going to do that Will talked about, a few things. It's going to get some site content for me. It's going to get my favorites. More importantly, or maybe most importantly, what it's doing behind the scenes while that was coming up is it's authenticating me with Tableau as well. So you'll notice I never logged in. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. I never I never had to log in. When I go and start interacting here, I won't have to log in. That's thanks to integration with the REST API and the embedding API as well. So I can essentially embed a small viz that's my authentication viz, and I authenticate against that as soon as that's ready with my JWT. Then now my user can just start interacting here, right? So let's talk about what we're seeing here. So what you're seeing across the top was, again, might remind you of other streaming services you've seen where we've got like a carousel experience. This is just random content. I should have said this first. A lot of this is just random content that I grabbed off of Tableau Public, so that I would have a healthy population of content of different types, right? So what do we see at the top? We see a carousel, kind of like we would normally see. These are your big hitters, right? You know, if you have content that you really want to feature, you really want folks to see because it's timely or new or a heavy hitter, whichever. You've got an area here where you can highlight that really important stuff. Also, if I look here, I can go straight into viewing this content that I've highlighted without ever leaving the page, without ever leaving my portal experience. This is using the embedding API, obviously. But right here, I can start to see some really important things right from the rip that might be important to me. So I've got the title. If I want to, I can go directly to it externally. This I would need to log into, but we'll just imagine that logged me in. And then I can also see I can do a quick thumbs up, thumbs down. I can see here, not the most popular, 32% positive rating. But again, these numbers are all random. But I can also do something here that I couldn't do in one view on Tableau Server or Tableau Cloud, is say, hey, I want this in my favorites right now. You know, this was something that was featured. It was probably featured for a reason. So let me go ahead and add it to my favorites. Of course, now it's spinning since this is a demo, but that's okay. I also get some information, some quick hit information about what is this? Is this a view? Is it a dashboard? Is it a workbook? Is it a project? And then any tags that are associated with it. So those things might really matter. And if you wanted to go deeper, you could include the comments that are stored on Tableau Server. Any data point that you see on Tableau Server that's available in the admin insights published data sources, that's where the majority of this metadata is coming from. Let's look a little bit further into our experience, right? So the first thing I see at the top, very similar to Tableau, is my favorites, right? So we already know that Tableau has a way to manage favorites, but it's not great, I would say. So let's expand this here. So inside of this, we can now start seeing that I have little cards for each one of my favorites. And the icons might kind of tell you what they are. So I've got a favorited project, a favorited data source, some favorited data sources, and some favorited views, right? But what happens if I start interacting with these? That one that I just added a moment ago just got added in. If you noticed, it increased from 16 to 17. So, but what happens when I hover over one of these items, right? So I get this sort of more modern feeling, a little slicker, more interactive feeling of when I hover over this, I immediately start getting some metadata. So I don't need to click in. My eyes don't need to track a big long table all the way across. I can immediately see that checkmark indicates to me this is a favorite, the title, whether I have rated it up and down. So let's just go ahead and give it a thumbs up. You know, it had a low rating. We'll help out here. I can see that this is a project. I can see who the owner is. I can see when it was, in this case for a project, when it was created, and the description right here from one screen. I can click down here if I want to get some tags for the same object. And then if, let's say I want to go straight to it, if I need to go into the Tableau Server UI for some reason, I can do that straight from here as well. What happens when I get to things like a workbook or a view that I'll go to in a second? Same thing for a workbook here, right? I get that quick hit. I've already thumbs up these ratings are actually going into a database. So this is something that I both favorited and thumbs up. And Will and I imagine this, you know, thumbs up, thumbs down. You could use other APIs or other scripts to immediately notify the person, hey, this was added to someone's favorites, or hey, someone thumbs up this, excuse me. And then maybe some more constructive feedback. Like if somebody wanted to give a thumbs down, you could have a modal pop up to say, hey, why? We'd like to give this feedback to the developer. You could really, as we keep saying, your imagination is really the limit here with what you can do. So let's take a look at another one. So we have down here, we have a view, right? And since I can't embed an entire workbook, but I can embed a view, I can, once again, from inside my application without ever having my user leave, go ahead and pull up this view. And this view has a lot of data. So there we go. And this is by probably many people on the call know Lisa Trescott. She's a former Iron Viz contestant, Tableau visionary. She's an amazing person. And she and I share a huge love of RuPaul's Drag Race. So I had to make sure that one of her Drag Race vizzes was included here. So let's look at some of the other ways that we could organize and interact with the content here. So that was favorites. That's pretty standard, right? Maybe I also want a section that are things that I liked. So kind of, maybe I may not want to favorite everything, but there may be things that I really like that I want to get back to quickly. So kind of the same experience here. Now let's start talking about organizing things that might be really relevant to your users, right? So I talked about wanting to have content maybe that we bring to the forefront. And one of a really popular way to do that on most streaming services or things like that is to have like a featured author, director, actor, however you want to think about that. And so I chose one of my very good friends, Lindsay Betzendahl, also a Tableau visionary who creates incredible visualizations in Tableau. And so decided that, hey, this is a way that you could push users to like, hey, this is somebody who does it right. If you think about this in a business context, you could have like a culture champions or people who have a proven record of creating really insightful business dashboards and say like, this is who you should go learn these kinds of things from. So a way to really highlight people who are doing good stuff. New content, right? So we've talked a lot about, Will mentioned, it's too hard to find things that are new, especially if we know the artificial separation for everything on Tableau is the site. But what if I have access to 10 sites, which is not that uncommon in a large installation like JPMC. So if I want to find new stuff from all around there, I would have to go site by site, try to remember, is this new? Did I already see this? No. Again, we can use things like the Admin Insights data sources to search across sites, make a consolidated list of here are things that have been created in the last 30, 60, 90 days that we think you might be interested in based on your profile and you having access, et cetera, et cetera. So I can close this expander and we'll keep going. So now we get into one called sports, a very popular topic, right? If we go into like the sports category, first thing you're going to notice, right, is these first two vizzes, I can't make out what they are, right? And that represents content that I don't have access to. So very often users, they don't have access to something, ergo they don't even know it exists. And there may be things out there that we want users to know that they can't see because it might be useful for them. So in this case, right here, we've replaced the ability to open this externally with a little lock saying you can't access this. So if you think about what Will was talking earlier about, hooking this in with external services, other APIs, we could very easily turn this button click into I'm going to create a formal request in my, enterprise request system for you. Go get it approved, and next time you come back, you'll be able to see this. So start really thinking about once we have this data and we're creating our own experiences, we can do whatever we want. So you're really going to hear me drive that home. And so
one additional thing, right? So if you're thinking about governance and controls, maybe you don't show everything that could ever exist inside of your organization, but you only show things that have row level security. So whether you have it or not, you might have access to the object, but you might not be able to see, which is why we hinder this. It could be sensitive material. It could be anything. So
very good point. Very good point.
Art of the possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then, what I went down into another section here and I started searching for just keywords. So in this section is just anything that is self-proclaimed as a business dashboard. Some of them may be, some of them may not be. But that's, again, because you have this data that's just available to your application, you can look through tags, titles, descriptions, anything you really want, right? So if we go down here, the last section that I'll show you on this screen before I jump into the search functionality that we built is imagine you're someone who's more of an auditor role, or you've been assigned with cleaning things up. You can also create like an aged content view. So views or things that haven't been touched in a really long time. Maybe I want to go through and quickly find the owner here. And again, this could span multiple sites or even multiple instances. So I have one consolidated list of lists like, hey, Caitlin, like this hasn't been touched in over a year, almost a year and a half at this point. Do we need to archive it? Do we need to delete it? Whatever the case may be. So you can also use the VDS, use VDS and your own applications here to start, sort of ending the loop. You can look for things that are new, you can look for things that are old, and then you can take action on them, right? I mean, we're all about actionable insights and data. This is another way to build insights that you might not ever be able to get, at least in one place on Tableau Server. So one other very important thing that Will mentioned, right, was the ability to search. So I will show you what we put here. So like many things, once you click on search, you get kind of a larger search experience on top of what you were doing. So you can go back. So in this case, like I already mentioned, I'm a huge fan of RuPaul's Drag Race. I know there's a lot of content on Tableau Public related to that. So I'm going to go ahead and search here for RuPaul, and we'll see what starts happening. So immediately, this is because that spacing is because of the Zoom level that I'm at. Apologies. Let me try to fix that really quick if I can. There we go. All right. So immediately, almost immediately, right? And this is what Will was saying. We're using the built-in search API plus some custom search techniques based on the metadata that we have in our application's backend here. But immediately I can see within my cloud environment that I'm using for this, I have 81 views that say they are related to RuPaul, either through tags, description, search, et cetera, et cetera. Most of these are going to be about the show Drag Race, obviously. And then I also have things related to workbooks. So I can bring back the entire workbook that contains, usually it's going to be these views, if that's what I want to do as well. Let's search for something here. Let's search for, I know there's a lot of Makeover Monday content in this site as well. So if I search for Monday, I should start getting some results here. It's always live. It's always live. All right, let's try doing it this way. Apologies. Nope, we're still going. All right. Oh, there it goes. And of course, as soon as I hit refresh, it won't. So we'll try it again. Running on my local machine. These things.
Somebody's got a case of the Mondays.
You know what happened? You know what's funny, Will, is this didn't happen at all when we were at TC. So we'll still call that a win. So I'll give this a second here while I vamp a little longer. So there's a lot of content related to Makeover Monday on this site. So that's another thing that I get 509 views. So that's a big part of why it took so long. So I can do things like that. If I had multiple result types up here, I can build in a way to filter those. So let's say this isn't a good example. Let me switch back. I'll switch back to RuPaul here since I did get two different types of results. But yeah, I can, again, I'm building the experience here. So I'm really in charge of what I do with this experience. So this, of course, is not an exhaustive list of the things that you could do by building your own sort of bespoke portal experience here. But and it doesn't even cover all of the requirements that Will originally laid out. But what we really wanted to show here is that using the power of VDS to kind of free yourself from having to just either embed or go straight to the data source and lose a lot of that granularity, row-level security, the existing governance that already happens on Tableau Cloud and Tableau Server creates a lot of extra work that you would have to do just to stay compliant and things like that. So I am going to stop the share here.
So one thing real quick, right? So to also be fair to what this is and what this is not Tableau. We're just using Tableau features, Tableau embedded tools, the APIs, the data source, published data sources. We're creating our own data sources that we're querying with VizQL data sources or data service. And we could literally, as Kyle mentioned, there can be multiple tools that can be brought into a single portal environment, because this is not Tableau Server. This is a site. So if you have partnering tools, if you have other interfaces, you want to embed a different user experience, whatever the case may be, this is just all we're doing from Tableau perspective is we're just querying data using the VizQL data service. We're creating a data source. We're governing the access. We're governing all that through Tableau Server. But this is just a website. We're using code. Kyle has coded this and programmed this and done really cool stuff, but has nothing to do with Tableau per se. So you don't even have to limit yourself to thinking, oh, well, this is only doable within Tableau. We are empowered to do this with Tableau. And so it's not this, but it is yes and.
Absolutely. Great point, Will. And I'm going to stop sharing here and then go back to the presentation, and which is now on the wrong screen. There we go. All right. Got it in the right place. And then I will share this guy. And we're all set. All right. So we wanted to leave you, after all that, right? We wanted to leave you with some tools. We don't just want to show you this. You know, the feedback was we showed you a lot of flair. We showed you a lot of cool stuff that you can do, but we didn't necessarily give you the tools to know how. So we want to give you a starter pack, right? You know, everything's all about starter packs these days, or it was in 2009. I don't know what the kids are doing anymore. I'm almost 40. But the first part of the starter pack, and there is a link on the slide if the slides are distributed, but I know it's being recorded, but the QR code as well. I've actually written in the past, I've written about VizQL and VizQL twice. The first time was when the product was still in a beta, and that was more of a show and tell of what it could do. We didn't go nearly as far as we went with this. But you can, if you want to, that's also available. But this blog post specifically, as the name implies, is a deep dive. I will show you how to start from literally nothing. If you've never written a query in Postman or Python before, I'll give you all the basics and how to get started, and show you how to start building the VizQL queries that you would use to start powering something like this. So we pause there for the QR for 3 more seconds. And then on the next screen, part 2 of the starter pack is the code that powered everything you just saw is on GitHub. You know, this disclaimer, it is not production ready code. Don't take it and then come back to me and cry that it broke something. There's a disclaimer in the README as well. But if you're curious as to how we got from writing the very first query example that's in the blog post from the last slide to what we showed you just a few moments ago, this is all the code. And as I always say in my READMEs for code repositories, steal it, take anything you want. You know, I do this for the love of the tool and for the love of helping other people understand it. So please take it, tear it apart, give me feedback. I definitely want to hear from you. To be Viz curious. I like that comment. All right. Well, Will, we've reached the end. We reached the end for the 3rd time. We made it to this slide. And I know that Will and I both want us to give a sincere thank you for everyone who joined today and for everyone who saw the presentation at TC. You know, Will, I can only speak for myself, but I had a wonderful time on this ride with you. You know, I won't lie, when you first reached out, right, I had told myself, you're not presenting at TC this year. You're not doing it. You were so tired last year. And then you and Gigi reached out to me, and I was like, I can't say no to either one of them. And I'm so glad that I didn't.
Yep. I too was very happy to be selected on this presentation, and this kind of forced us. I keep saying the word us like a good manager and good people leader. It forced us to code this quicker and develop faster. But it was a wonderful presentation. It was a wonderful experience. And we've got time for like Q&A too. So I know, Chris, you're about to announce that, but thank you everyone for being here. And yeah,
I've got time. There's still a few slides to go, remember?
Yeah, you've got time.
Oh yeah,
so Kyle, if you can stop sharing, I can start sharing again. No, awesome. The chat room is going off. Even I was asking questions. as I said to someone the other day, how long do you take to learn Tableau? Everyone learns different things in Tableau, so you never really stop learning. It's just which part do you want to learn. So I can see a few people tapping me on the shoulder going, we want that because that's awesome. And as much as it's not Tableau, it's Tableau, but it's not Tableau. It's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Easy. I think we've handled all the Q&A, but again, feel free to type the Q&A in the chat or in the Q&A. I posted a few questions myself and they were answered along the way, so that was awesome. And we'll unmute everyone at the end as well. And if you missed it, and probably different to what Kyle has, there's all Kyle's social links, if you like. And again, this is in the recording, so you can come back and look at that at any time. Will, not so many, but it's not a competition of links. It's okay. It's like, I don't think Will's going to have a GitHub account, but you know, maybe we can talk him into that one day. That's okay.
We'll get in there. We'll get in there one day.
Yeah, that's cool. So flipping it a little bit. So for every tug session, we have a fast 5, which is quick questions with quick answers. I don't usually have 2 presenters. So the way I'm going to do this is someone can go first on the first question, and then the other one replies. And then on the second question, we'll just flip it over.
Sure.
The hard question is, who wants to go first for question 1?
I'll do it.
Oh.
I heard Kyle first, so because that's the order on the screen. Okay,
right.
So easy questions. First thing that comes to mind. Kyle, what's your personal Tableau motto?
I'm stealing this from Christian Saavedra de Monod. #DataDevRocks.
Awesome. And Will?
Everything is possible as long as you have the data.
Perfect. Okay, Will, what's your favorite Tableau feature?
Now is VDS. Now, can I go and design all this? No, but seeing what we can do with it, VDS is uber powerful.
So Kyle, what is your favorite Tableau feature? But Will just stole VDS.
So if I wouldn't have said VDS, I still look back at how much parameter actions changed the game. Like, they're old hat at this point, but I still remember how much of an impact that had when it was announced and when they were rolled out. So I might still say that.
Yep, cool. Kyle, when do you know when a dashboard is done?
When somebody complains about it not working or not being able to download the data.
Because that's when it's being used. Okay, Will, when do you know when a dashboard is done?
So they're never done, but published is better than perfect. So as long as we're answering the problems that the people, our end users have, and giving the insights that are relevant, then it should be evergreen. It'll never be done.
Perfect. Okay, Will, what is one feature you wish Tableau had?
Ooh, so I've had this thing, and I don't know if I've ever explained it to people where they understand it correctly. But like, I would love to be able to call a field name, like using parameter where you can do measure names, right? But use that kind of like in SQL, where it's like call sales as whatever. And so have some sort of a parameter where instead of having a hard code, parameter equals this, then sales, parameter equals this, then profit. So being able to just call that field just by using the measure name as the parameter value, like that. And I don't know how to explain that. I have an idea and it just keeps getting deprioritized. So
and that must be really hard because a lot of people have asked for that for years and years and years, and it hasn't got done yet. But yes, there's always that similar theme around that as well. Kyle, one feature you wish Tableau had?
The cheap shot answer is spell check in desktop. But more seriously, I really, really, really wish that Tableau Desktop could connect to a web API that returns JSON without all the nonsense of custom connectors and WDCs. Like, it feels like we should have gotten there. I realize that sort of eliminates some of the use cases for prep, but it's annoying. It's annoying.
Yep.
Internally, we get that question a lot, and we're an Alteryx shop, so we always have to send people to another tool. which is tough sometimes.
And Alteryx is great, but it doesn't answer the Tableau question of how do I just connect to an API and get the data easily.
Yep, exactly.
Awesome. And Kyle, final question. What advice would you give to your past self when you first started using Tableau?
Besides, avoid that Will Perkins guy at all costs. I think what I would have told myself earlier on that it took me a long time to figure out is that like everybody has a niche, right? Like, and there is a place for that within Tableau and the DataFam. Like, just because I never felt like I was going to be, I was never going to be Viz of the Day. I was never going to build all of some of the like, overwhelmingly beautiful things that you see. But I am really good at data dev, and it took me a long time to accept that, like, that's okay. Find your niche, really dig in, and you'll find your people.
Yep. And there's space for all of that as well. So you don't have to be everything. There will be something for you as well.
Exactly.
And Will.
See, mine took me a couple years to actually understand this, but when I talk about like a career path, now I've been using Tableau almost 10 years now. And when I first started using it, everything I saw was this was just like my job function. I create charts. That's part of my job function. I give people what they ask for. That's just part of my job. And then I went to Tableau Conference 2016 and realized I now have an infinite landscape of job opportunities, like as a career, where the x-axis is any industry, any company. It is infinite. I saw, apparel companies. I saw government, nonprofit, tech, all the different companies. X-axis. My y-axis was people as like line level analysts, all the way up to the C-suite and everything in between. Infinite y-axis, and even if you think on a z-axis, you can go as deep into data as you want or as light into data. But like, to me, it's an infinite plane of opportunities. So like, don't think just because you have experience in financial services doesn't mean that can't transition into medical or healthcare, right? I mean, I wish I would have seen that earlier on.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Great. Thank you. Thank you for those answers. It's always good. So switching channels to our next tug is Harvey presenting about predictive analytics in Node Solutions. Again, all the times are down the bottom. It is just one meeting. I just put time zones from around the world. And weirdly enough, on Monday, it's June 2nd, everywhere in the world when we're doing this presentation, because usually like now it's Friday for me, it's Thursday for Kyle and Will, but we just happen to find a slot that's just the same day, just all different times. But you guys have to get up at about 3 a.m. to watch this, so that'll be cool. Maybe watch the recording later on. And all the recording is always on YouTube. So if you go to that YouTube channel, youtube.com/@teamdatafam, don't blame me for the URL, that's YouTube's. But on that YouTube channel, you get all the tugs around the world that record their content. We've just ticked over 3,100 hours of watch time and 1,100 subscribers on that. So this recording will be on there pretty quick, but there'll be other recordings on there as well. There's new content uploaded every few days. If you can't sit down and watch YouTube, there is a Spotify podcast and an Apple podcast. And if you need help with any of this stuff, or if you just want to email me to appear like we're doing today with these guys and present anything that's Tableau related or semi-Tableau related, my email is team.datafam@gmail.com. So again, thank you guys for presenting. It's nice that it's the season 2 of the TC20 revamp of VizQL Chill. So season 3 is TC next year, I think would be. But again, awesome presentation, and thank you for that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for the opportunity, Chris, and thank you everybody for coming out with us.